This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
Welcome to The Secret Life of Cookies, where we try to solve the world's problems through the miracle of carbohydrates, one recipe at a time, with host Marissa Rothkopf and her dog, Bosco.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Secret Life of Cookies. My guest this week is Ayelet Waldman, the New York Times bestselling author, and also the creator and writer behind the Netflix Emmy-award winning series, Unbelievable. And speaking of unbelievable, come on, who could miss an obvious segue like that one? Unbelievable is the range of topics Ayelet and I get to as we made chewy oatmeal cookies. Oh, we cover, let's say, psychedelics, how to use MDMA to keep your marriage on sure footing. Ayelet is also married to author Michael Chabon. Real gratitude versus smug-gratitude, great books to read, and whether society allows women to age gracefully or if the whole concept is a farce. And jumpsuits. Yes, the secret behind jumpsuits. So you see, there's a lot to get to. I hope you enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Secret Life of Cookies. I have as my guest the wonderful author of memoir, fiction, LSD tripping, and family life, and also of the Netflix show Unbelievable, Ayelet Waldman. And it's such a pleasure to have you here to bake cookies and talk about the world.
I'm so stoked to be here because, first of all, because I'm obsessed with you, because you were a gateway drug into cookie obsession. I do hold you responsible for the 13 different kinds of cookies I made this Christmas that went into 38 tins that I had someone else go and buy the tins, and they were like massive tins. They were not small tins. So I had so many cookies to make. I spent 6 days making cookies, including pulling an all-nighter up to like 5 a.m. the last night, frantically trying to finish my cookies before they were too, I didn't want them to ship more than a couple of days after bake. Anyway, your fault. It was insane.
I just think it shows what a hard worker you are, that you don't give up, right? You didn't say, forget it. They're not getting those cookies. I don't recommend that,
people. There's no reason to bake off 13 different kinds. You just get 6 and you get them right.
Which ones were your favorite out of that group? I really do need to know.
Your brown sugar cookies are the best cookie on earth. I have to talk to you about them because they spread.
I know that really troubled me.
Yeah. So I have to figure out why they spread. I have some questions for you. So those I loved. I made a peppermint brownie cookie that I think was from New York Times that had peppermint, candy canes, little shards on top. That was a huge hit. It was a massive hit. People love that. I did a chocolate crinkle that people really loved. And I did Linzer cookies, which are my favorite.
My favorite.
Those are some of the highlights, things that worked out that were, and then I made, we're doing an adaptation of The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, my husband's Pulitzer Prize winning novel, for Netflix, an 8-episode limited.
Ayelet, who are you married to?
Oh, I am married to the struggling young writer, Michael Chabon.
Oh, right. Okay.
Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, Wonder Boys, Moonglow, and other wonderful works. And former showrunner of Star Trek Picard, first season. Among the people on my list were all of our studio executives at
oh my God,
Netflix, CBS Studios, Paramount Studios. So I am, and our agents and everything. So I baked gingerbread golems, like I did the gingerbread, and then instead of doing faces, I wrote the 3 letters that the golem has on his forehead. Emmet was fucking brilliant, I have to say. So those were the good ones. Some of them that worked less well. I did a sort of a 3-layer cookie, but I didn't really think it through. So like I should have used something to evenly tamp down the layers, so that it would be, so it was kind of like, it offended my OCD that it was not, it had like ridges and like, it just didn't look nice and neat and smooth across the top.
I would refrigerate those before baking.
Oh, I refrigerated everything. I was a compulsive refrigerator, which is one of the questions I want to ask you. I like freeze or froze every cookie dough, refrigerated every single dough before I bake them because I didn't want spread. And I still got spread on the brown sugar. I used European butter like Kerrygold. Is that why?
I don't know. It could have been because the fat content was higher. Although I have to believe I've used it once because that's the kind of thing you would use in a shortbread cookie because you want the purest, bestest, buttery flavor. Have you made them since is my other question.
No, I haven't made them since. I feel like they didn't spread that much last year when I made them, but I don't think I bought 76 packages of Kerrygold butter.
That's my girl. Yeah.
That cost.
Yes, I do.
They should contact me and give me a present. But
I think they should sponsor me. If they're out there listening.
I think what I'll do next year is I'll try like a few batches before I start baking with different kinds of butters, because maybe that was it.
Or maybe I need to do that for you because need to make it. I'll do that. And my daughter's at college and she's very much like, she called us yesterday and we were like, my husband's lovely guy, but was like, we're baking cookies now. And she's like, what kind? And they were like her favorite kind of cookies. And it's not fair to tell the kids in college.
My husband is always sending the kids cookies and stuff to college. I haven't, weirdly, but he'll send them like peanut butter. Oh, peanut butter blossoms. Everybody loves those. Although I don't like Hershey's chocolate. So I special ordered some like Schmance chocolate like drops. I can't remember the company, and they didn't get here in time. I ordered them weeks ahead. And because of, goddamn Biden and his, whatever, not his fault, but the slowdowns at the chocolate factory.
I think it was actually Louis DeJoy who was sitting there.
I know. He fucking sat on my chocolate drops. Anyway. Yeah. So those were all great. They were all delicious. I tried again to make spritz cookies and I am
fucking hell. Sorry.
Torture. Those are just like sheer torture.
So what's the point then? It's sort of my point, which is like, why don't you make yourself a delicious cream cheese based cookie? And then you're going to get a delicious spritzy like tasting cookie. It'll be great.
I'll do that.
Oh, roll it out, turn it into a little wreath that way. It hurts the gun. No good.
And I learned some definitely important things about rolling stuff out. I can't chill too much before I roll. I had my friend Andrew Sean Greer, who is the Pulitzer Prize winning author of Less, the novel, best novel in the world. Got to read it. He came over and my gingerbread was too hard in the fridge. So I made him roll it out and he was like, sweat. But I also roll everything out now between two pieces of parchment paper because I cannot stand the mess. It gets so sticky. And then you just peel, flip, peel, cut, you're good.
Yeah. And the trick is if you have to go, you want to get going and you don't have your friend there to like beat the living daylights out of it like a caveman, you can take I'm pointing to my rolling pin. Can you see? Everybody at home, I know listening on this podcast can, but you take your rolling pin and you kind of pound at it. Bam, 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 across and turn it. Bam, 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 bam. And after about 5 or 6 bam, bam, bams, it's going to start to soften enough.
Oh, that's good.
So that you can roll it.
I can do that next time.
And it helps deal with aggression.
Sometimes after I'd rolled them flat, threw them in the fridge before I used the cookie cutters. And that was good too, because then they were really nice and stiff for the cookie cutters and didn't stick.
Speaking of refrigeration, and before we get on to important things like why Andrew Giuliani is running for governor of New York, my latest nightmare is you wanted to make an oatmeal cookie. And
the fridge too.
The cookie dough that we made is really, truly best when it's been refrigerated because it gives the oat time to absorb liquid, especially if you're using old-fashioned oats, the kind that take 5 minutes to cook as opposed to instant oats. And the difference, like bake these cookies just after I make the dough because I have to eat cookies right away because I don't know, I have disease for cookies. And you can feel the oatmeal as you're chewing. And when you refrigerate them, it begins to soften. And the next day, the cookie is even better. The oatmeal cookie is all about moisture distribution.
So you say it, in the recipe, it says 2.5 hours. That's probably not enough, right? But can I all them up now and stick them in the fridge and then?
Yeah. Or just try baking them off and seeing the texture of the oat now, and then seeing how much better it is later.
Well, I'm gonna start balling with my cookie scoop, which I love. Another great innovation for this new
cookie scoop. It's great. I love it. I'm using mine right now. I have 2 different sizes, and I would like one more. I think I'd like to do teeny tiny cookies.
And it was too the one size. It was just too, like who has cookies that big? It was way too. But the 1 inch, I think, is like perfect.
This cookie also has, the way I make it, has spices in it and chocolate chips. It does not have raisins because Ayelet does not like raisins. So we try not to offend my guests with dried fruits.
I want to make a confession to you. I did not use the cinnamon. I didn't use the nutmeg because I realized I didn't have any, I must have used it all up. But I didn't use it because I hate cinnamon. So I'm flavoring with a little extra vanilla and orange. And then I don't like chocolate. I know I sound like a crazy person, but actually I don't have that many things I don't like. But one of them is cinnamon and one of them is chocolate. I only like milk chocolate. And even then, only fancy Swiss milk chocolate, really. So I put in a ton of pecans.
Those are going to be so good, especially with the orange and the vanilla. I'm washing my hands, people.
I always double the vanilla in everything because I feel like there's not enough vanilla.
I do believe in the road cop rule, which is always double vanilla and always triple garlic. But that's like my own issue.
That's great. That's super smart. Something horrible has happened to me in the last just month. I think I might have developed a garlic intolerance because I get or I might just be Jewish. Because I'll cook with a ton of garlic. Michael does too. And then I've been having that late night Jewish man thing where you're on TV and you're like, oh, man. And I've noticed that it seems to be connected to a garlic meal, which I really am not going to accept as tolerable.
No, don't. Do you then have a nice cup of hot water with lemon in it?
Yeah, I should do that. Or maybe not the citrus, just you know how the Chinese drink hot water all the time?
Yeah. And I always associate it with old Jewish people drinking some hot water because it helps the digestion, I think is what they would say. My grandmother, whenever my grandmother would come to visit us, she didn't speak a lot of English. She was a new immigrant to this country, fresh.
Wait, she was really a fresh immigrant from where? The Jewish Pale of Settlement?
Vienna. She came with my father and her husband. My grandfather.
Pre-war.
No, it was just 1939.
Oh, thank God.
They were the just-in-time people. Yeah. I mean, it did. Yeah. They were lucky because my great uncle, we think, helped the Bush family procure alcohol during Prohibition because he ran an Italian import store. And so he lived in Connecticut. And I think that was one of the reasons they were able to get into the country. So I have something to thank the Bushes for. And that's really kind of where it is.
At this point, the Bushes are seeming like, a paragon of evil, but at least not fucking horror shows.
I want to ask you,
grandmother, when she'd come over, what would she have?
Oh, my grandmother. That's right. My grandmother, when she'd come over, we'd eat dinner, and then she and I would go sit in front of the TV. She would turn on either Lawrence Welk or ice hockey. It was a strange dichotomy of viewing pleasures.
A little old lady watching ice hockey?
I think she liked the speed, but she was like, "Go get me my pfefferbin," and I would go down to her drawer, and she would always have one of those big plastic crinkly bags with the pink peppermints in it, the dusty, crunchy ones.
Yeah.
And I could have one too, and she would have one, and we would digest after dinner.
Oh, that's so sweet. Here's a question for you. So your grandmother made it out in time. So few relatively people did. And so many Jews just were like, this can't happen here. I mean, how can this happen? We're so assimilated. We all fought in World War I. We were officers, we're professors, we're doctors. I mean, in Hungary, something like 90% of stockbrokers were Jewish, 80%. I don't know if I'm remembering these, but it's like up there of doctors were Jewish. It never occurred to them for a minute that they weren't totally assimilated. So do you have that feeling like when you look at what's going on now, do you think, what am I like? Am I the other guys? Am I not my grandmother? Am I not seeing the, writing in the wall? Should we be getting the hell out of here?
That was actually, I've been having those thoughts a lot lately. And I very distinctly, like a couple weeks ago, I was like walking the dog through my nice little neighborhood and thinking to myself, would these people save me? Would they give me a place in their attic?
Yeah. That's the question you always ask. Nathan Englander has a short story about that. What we talk about when we talk about Anne Frank. Like, yes, every goy in my life, I'm like, would you hide me in your attic?
That's the litmus test. And also I started thinking, well, we could probably escape. They didn't have, I had the stupidest thought. I was like, well, a lot of people didn't have so many cars then. And so they could drive away. We could drive north or something. And then I thought, no, they'll stop us at the border. The idea that I was having those thoughts, I'm grateful that my father's not around to both of my parents, my mother basically killed herself watching MSNBC, right? Just railing at the television going, I can't believe this.
I was so glad my dad lived to see Trump lose. That was really important to me.
Yeah, my mother lived to see that too. And that was, oh, no, she didn't. Oh my God, no, she didn't. I'm so sorry. But she was obsessed with Joe Biden. So from wherever dead people go, she's saying, at least it was my Joe. I love him so much. Except my mother did not talk like this. She sounded like a nice Anglican girl from the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which is what she fancied herself. You were a long time ago in a distant galaxy. You were actually a federal prosecutor.
Representing the bad guys, not, well, I would argue representing the less bad guys and the people on the other side. Because this was the era, I was a public defender in the era of Bill Clinton's hellacious, brutalizing war on drugs and the mandatory sentences. And so my clients were going to jail for 20 years for carrying a box of methamphetamine, to a car, like literally, the people they hired to carry the box. So yeah, it was a bad time. And the people on the other side, the prosecutors, were monsters. But you were asking me?
Yes, but I was asking, speaking of monsters, do you ever I know you've moved on to greater and gooder things, as we say in our bad English, but do you ever with what happened in with the Trumps, let's just call them by who they are, Donald's family, do you ever find yourself muttering to yourself and wondering what you would do if you could prosecute them?
Yeah, you know what I think about mostly, because I was a public defender, I think about my clients and how differently they were treated. So here's an example. I had a client who was no criminal history. Guy who had a normal job. He and his wife had a child who was profoundly disabled, on a ventilator, couldn't speak, no one was really sure how much brain activity she had, how aware she was. But they could take her home from the hospital once they were trained in handling her vents and clearing her lungs and stuff. So they needed to build a room in their house that they could have her in, that was downstairs, that was easily accessible, that, they could, I'm sorry, my cookie just got stuck in the cookie baller. So he went and got a second mortgage. And this was right out of the sort of, mortgage fraud thing, back in the 90s. So the mortgage broker basically had him overstate his income in order to get a larger mortgage. That is a federal crime. So overstates his income at the encouragement of the mortgage broker. And then when he defaults because the mortgage market collapses, the bank goes to the U.S. attorney and the government prosecutes him for mortgage fraud. They don't prosecute the mortgage broker who told him about the fraud, how to do it and why to do it and all that. So, and he went to jail. Jail. A man with a severely disabled daughter who lied about one thing on a document, how much money he made, and not even by that much, at the encouragement of a banker.
Oh my God.
And Donald Trump is never going to go to jail. And the fraud that they committed every fucking day in that
every fucking hour they were committing fraud.
And that's what I think about all the time. I think about like this country, even now, which, is just so biased against the poor and biased in favor of the rich. And just in a way that is like, I feel like it's like Scrooge McDuck. That's how obvious and
right.
They don't even try not to be Scrooge McDuck,
That's
So
right.
that is what I think about all the time.
That's the problem is there's this grotesque inequity that maybe this will be a positive and it'll raise more people's attention to bring more attention to the inequities in the justice system. And there'll be a complete redoing of the justice system or something.
People who care about the inequities in the justice system are already trying to do that. But the majority of people, and I do think it's a majority. I think the majority of people obviously are Democrats. We know that. Like, the 7 people who live in Wyoming get as many votes as the billion people who live in California. But we know many more people are Democrats. But I think even among Democrats, the number of people who actually care about the poor, like actually care, is so small that it just makes me freaking crazy. Can't bear it.
Especially when there's so much billionaire money going around.
And
right.
I don't understand. I've met Jeff Bezos. He was weird, but he didn't seem like an evil man, so what the fuck is he doing?
I don't know. I don't know how you have that much money.
Yeah. Why is he? I mean, I don't know. I met the Google guys too. They seemed downright nice. The only man I think who's actually doing good work, well, maybe not the only, but there's George Soros and there are people who are like. And
well, you're connected to George Soros as a Jew, aren't you? I know. I get regular emails from him.
Yes. We have that cabal. I'm a member.
You can tell I'm really making it. Thanks.
Yeah, but I like Reed Hastings impresses me, the guy who runs Netflix. I feel like he does good work in the world, but so few of them do, and they can afford to do so much. It was
like Elon Musk.
When Bezos got divorced, and I can't remember her name all of a sudden, I can't remember anybody's name. And she immediately started giving away money. Clearly, she had been just waiting to do that the whole time.
Yeah, that was a huge statement on her part, I think, as her first move as a single woman was to give away some of the money.
Wouldn't you love to do that?
Oh, I'd love to. I would love to be able to do that and to have that much money and figure out what to do with it. And one of them would not be to have a giant yacht. But anyway.
No. And Elon Musk definitely get a little sailboat, like a little wooden sailboat.
That'd be nice.
Costs about $10,000. I get that.
Yeah, and you wouldn't feel so bad about the mooring costs or anything like that. You
have to disassemble a bridge, an ancient, incredibly important to a culture bridge. All right, I'm putting.
Exactly.
These oats absorb. Will these oats absorb flavor in the freezer, or should I put this dough in the fridge?
I would put it in the fridge. But how long do you want them for? They'll be nice. Put half in the fridge and half in the freezer. Isn't that a nice Solomonic answer?
No, that's not what I do, babe. I eat 4 a day. I put all of them in the freezer eventually, except for 4. And then because we are empty nesters, we have 4 kids, but they're all gone. Our oldest daughter is about to move to New York looking for a job in publishing. Know anybody? Know anybody? You know anybody? Our son is living in LA with his girlfriend and is the only kid I've ever heard of who is, I'm going to brag for a second as a mom. He majored in electronic music at Bard, right? So you're a parent, you're like, electronic music at Bard. Okay. All right, well, do what you love, honey. And then, but he actually has a job doing what he learned and is making money. I'm putting my coffee in the microwave, which I do all day. And he's actually earning a living making music. He has his first credit is on a Sia song. He's just brilliant.
Well, anyway, that should be a lesson to all parents right there.
All parents, don't get so freaked out because they'll be okay. And then my third kid is at Vassar, loving it. And then my youngest is at a boarding school called Northfield Mount Hermon.
I know it well. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm just like squeezing everything in this fridge to the back. Well,
yes, everyone, Ayelet Waldman has opened up her double door refrigerator and is putting things inside it.
Anyway, so he's at boarding school. So we're empty nesters, right? It's the most glorious thing on earth. It's so wonderful. I live in fear that they'll come home. When they came home at COVID, it was actually turned out to be really lovely. We were very lucky. My dad died during COVID, but not of COVID. Michael lost a friend in the very beginning, but after that, we were very, very lucky. So, and having the kids home was wonderful. But what's even more wonderful is not having the kids home. And we are, oh my God, we're so happy. So
what do you appreciate the most about them not being home?
Just that we get to be together. When I describe our life to you, you're going to be like, Ayelet, are you in your 90s? This is what we do. I wake up at about 5:00 in the morning. Lately, I didn't always do that. I start work early, because we're trying to crash these scripts.
The scripts were unbelievable.
No, these are the scripts for Cavalier and Clay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Okay.
So we're frantically writing those scripts. So I get up really early. And then Michael works at night. Michael works from about 11 o'clock at night till about 5 in the morning. So we tend to pass in the morning and like, blah, blah, blah. And then when he wakes up at around 12 or 1, we have a nice little breakfasty, lunchy thing.
Does it involve cottage cheese? Because if you're 90, it involves cottage cheese.
It has occasionally involved cottage cheese. I will mix cottage cheese into my Israeli salad. Cottage cheese, tahina, and lemon. And a fried egg. It's very tasty.
Oh, that sounds very good, actually.
And then we'll, work out or whatever, and we'll cook a nice dinner together. We alternate usually who cooks. And then I will bake. I'll preheat the oven while we're eating dinner. And I will bake 4 cookies. And we'll each have 2 cookies and a little cup of chamomile tea. He'll have a caffeinated beverage. Yeah. And then half the time we will, go watch a Netflix or something. And then the other half the time we will listen to an audiobook and craft. Yes, we will. He's obsessed with all these like DIY things. So first he got into assembling these little electronic, he like made himself a computer with these kits, and he made himself a music player. And then he got super into, and he was soldering things with these goggles. And then he got into here's his little like kitchen home workbench.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then and then he got into, he got this 3D printer that came in pieces. And he assembled it himself. It took like 20 hours. And then he designs and 3D prints things and then he got into like buying old Matchbox cars and renovating. What would you call that when you fix up
refurbishing? Yeah.
It's refurbishing old Matchbox car. So, and then one of the cars that he got was a 1974 Pontiac Firebird Esprit a la Jim Rockford. From the Rockford Files. Yeah. And then he designed, it's taking him forever, and 3D printing Jim Rockford's trailer, which he will then paint in appropriate colors. So he does that. And then right before the election, like I would just be going nuts because we'd be listening to an audiobook when you don't have anything to do with your hands. So I started embroidering "fuck Trump" on things, just like And then I kind of moved on and I taught myself to embroider, and I'm not crafty. My husband's super crafty. The kids and my husband were always like making friendship bracelets or, pot holders or drawing. I can't do any of that. But I kind of fell in love with embroidery, and I started embroidering bigger and bigger projects. And now I'm embroidering my daughter's chuppah. What? Yeah, it's huge. It's 7 feet by 7 feet. It's all flowers. And it's going to be a full year. And God bless my machatana, which is the word you have in Yiddish that you don't have in English. And it's the word for your child's in-laws. It's a great word because we're friends with these people. I have no word for them. She had me send it to her, and she and her mom, she and her sister and her daughter, and sometimes her mom are taking like a couple months to do some more embroidery, and then they'll send it back to me.
That's the most beautiful thing. And it doesn't say fuck Trump on it.
It doesn't, although it could. I think that would be so appropriate. No, it says Ani lidodi v'dodi li, which means I am my love and my love is mine. Surrounded by these beautiful flowers. And then we're making a patch that says Sophie and Michael. My daughter's soon to be husband's name is Michael, like her dad. And then date. And as every kid gets married, we will put a patch for like each kid, sew it on, and we're sewing all our names. We're embroidering all our names into the chuppah itself, like made by. Yeah, it's very cool.
That is an amazing project and very inspirational.
It's really, I love that we're doing this. It's real. And it's such a nice connection between the two families. They're Catholic, but I was talking to Michael's sister and I said, Sarah, we got to find you a dude because you're 100% getting married under this chuppah. I don't care if it's a Catholic. The priest can duck.
It's all like, I'm sure that's how Jesus got married. Well, he never got. Anyway, I want to show you this. This is my husband's thing. I don't know.
Oh my God, that's what Michael has. That's what Michael has. What does he do with?
He started making models. And the thing that we're all squealing about here, people on my podcast, is a headband that you can wear that has a light and magnifying glasses that make you look like, I don't know, sort of a possessed frog with a thyroid problem.
We used to use that for lice picking.
Oh,
yeah. Do you remember that period of time?
Yes, I do.
Everybody had lice all the time. And the first day of school was like a lice check. And with the advent of the professional lice pickers, which started with Hasidic Jewish women, God bless them.
Yeah.
And then became a business. My life was improved so substantially.
It was the best money I ever spent.
Oh my God. My daughter, my third kid, my daughter had waist length, bright blonde hair. And I'm sorry, I'm a Jewish woman. I am not going to cut a child's waist length blonde hair. We're going to hold on to that as long as possible. And that color hair is the same as lice, by the way, exactly. With all due respect. That's my son. My son had the same. We all have that color hair. Cool. So
what color is your hair? Lice colored. Lice really lice colored.
But yeah, so just a number of times she got lice. It was just nuts. After a while, she went to school every day with tea tree oil and braids.
Yes, tea tree oil all around. And I have a feeling that anybody who's listening to this at home, if they ever experienced lice, is now itching their head because I cannot hear the word without starting to scratch.
I got it once. And we were sitting in a movie theater. I felt so bad. And I was like, what is going on? And I scratched my head. And usually there are only a couple of little actual louse on a head. And every fingernail had a crawling creature in it. And I was like, Michael, we have to leave. And I got up and I was like, oh my God.
Hey, I'm scratching my head.
I'm scratching you. We're both scratching.
Stay with us, people. We promise we're going to stop talking about lice. Probably.
And move on to cookies.
But also I want to move on to LSD, which you had some intimate experience with, all completely legal.
No, none of it remotely legal.
None of it remotely, but you did get yourself legal counsel. Is that true? Explain to people what your book was about for those who missed out on it and who are going to go out and buy it after this, because it's fascinating.
So I, like I said, I was a public defender during the drug war. And then I did drug policy reform work at the Drug Policy Alliance, which George Soros funded, and God bless him. And, and so I was sort of involved. I was very involved in, I knew a lot about drugs, drug policy, what was happening. And so I have a mood disorder. and it became treatment resistant, which is very common. And I was looking for an alternative therapy, and I happened to have a book just come into my house. You know, when you're a writer, books come into your house. And I was leafing through it, and it talks about microdosing with LSD, which is microdosing is taking a tiny quantity, a sub-perceptual quantity, usually 10 micrograms as compared to about 100 to 200 micrograms, which is an actual trip your balls off dose, and taking that every few days. And it improves concentration. It's good. The theory is that it's good for mood. I don't know if any of that is true or whether I just experienced the best placebo effect in the history of the world. But the first day I took it, I had been experiencing a real suicidal depression. Like I was actually counting pills in my bathroom. Like, how many things can I take? But, it turns out that the most dangerous thing in your medicine cabinet is Tylenol. We don't have that anymore. Get rid of your Tylenol, people. It's just not can kill you.
More people die of Tylenol overdoses.
Yeah, in a horrible way. So, and it worked stupendously. So I decided to do a 1 month trial and see if it's sustained. And then I started writing. I just kept a journal basically. And then my journal kind of spun off into like talking about the history of psychedelics, the history of drug policy in America. So it became this it was about my experience. It was about drug policy and the history of drug policy reform and the history of drug criminalization and the psychedelic movement and the history of psychedelics and the medical uses of psychedelics, and also my marriage. And I published that book. It's called A Really Good Day.
It's so good.
And so, yeah, I mean, it really was life altering. And I had no experience with psychedelics when I started. I had once at Wesleyan University, I can't believe I managed to make it through that institution, only doing this once. I ate a tiny quantity of magic mushrooms. All I remember is being on a tire swing and being like, oh, this is so much fun. That was it. I had never done any psychedelics. I have since done a full-on therapeutic, mediated with a therapist psychedelic trip that I can talk about if you want. But the medicine was really amazing. And I don't do it anymore because I can't guarantee myself either a legal or an effective source. Like so much of because drugs are illegal, it's all adulterated and there's fentanyl and it's bad. And because it's illegal, I was very careful. I hired a lawyer and had him evaluate my book. There were many things that came out. The truth is, what we were concerned with was not so much criminal prosecution, frankly, because I'm a well-to-do white lady and we very rarely get prosecuted. That's the way the criminal justice in America works.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, it's not. But I was afraid of having my kids taken away from me, which does happen. So, I mean, women who've used medical marijuana have lost custody of their children. So that was really my concern, to kind of protect that from happening. Yeah, so that's what I did. And it was pretty amazing. And I think microdosing, there's some research that shows that it's more placebo than actual, but they're also anecdotal. A lot of people have had anecdotal experience that it works really well. And, if it's placebo and it's working that well, who cares?
What is it like to do it under the supervision of a therapist?
Well, that was really intense. So I found a therapist. I'm not a huge super fan of her because she gave me way too much. For those of you who know anything about mushrooms, I did not. She gave me 4 fresh from the garden stems and caps, and then either 4 or 6, I can't remember, dried stems. It's a huge dose. So the first thing that happened was I was vomiting black rats. Everything that happens when you're tripping, it feels like it's actually happening, and it feels like it's happening for all eternity. So I felt them in my chest. I felt them in my throat. I felt them in my mouth, and I saw them drop onto the ground. That was lovely. And there were other really hard things that happened. Like my entire ego and super ego fractured into a tiny shards, and I was trying to hold it because I knew I'd never be sane again unless I could put it together. But it was like an 1 million piece puzzle made of glass. That was a scary moment. But there were also really incredible and important things. Anytime you recount a psychedelic trip, you sound like a fucking idiot. But I'm going to do it anyway. It's so banal. But like, I felt like I understood the concept of gratitude for the first time in my life, that up until that moment, I had seen gratitude through the lens of self-interest, that it was about making myself feel good, like a gratitude journal to make yourself feel good. It was about being sort of a smugness to, oh, I'm such a good person. But then I really understood the concept of gratitude on like a heart level. That was really, and that has sustained. Not all the time. Like I still find myself like making my gratitude journal to like make myself feel better, but still.
Yeah.
And there was things about my relationship with my daughter that I really dug into, that I had this, again, it sounds like the least profound insight in the world, but if when you feel it on like a soul, did I really say that level?
Yeah.
Found that my daughter was not me. And that if she was having a hard time, I wasn't having a hard time. And my job was to be supportive and loving and watch her live her life and not try to control it, and like that feeling of hyper-identification gets in the way of being supportive and loving and letting them live their lives. So that was like, and then there was one more. So you're blindfolded, you're lying there blindfolded. And the therapist was sitting in a corner of the room, and I could hear her sewing, and superimposed on her body were thousands and thousands and thousands of women sewing, going back to the beginning of time, like the beginning of when we began to sew with bones or whatever. And I felt this sense of the profound connection of motherhood, and that, I will say, this is not sustained. That improved my relationship with my own mother for a while, although that's a toughie. That was, I'm going to need like another 300, 400, 200 psychedelic trips to put that relationship into some kind of perspective. But it's actually really great. And that will be legal soon. I really do believe that. And I think that's really worth doing if you're experiencing going in with a good therapist, with someone who's very careful, and also going in knowing that it could be really difficult, that the experience could be upsetting and that could be difficult. And it could, you could have a bad trip. And that's like to say that, I had a bad trip, but it could be really hard and it can sort of wake up shit. And so like, you have to understand that that's coming, and then go in with the intention, like, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to think about? And it can be really life altering. The other experience that I highly recommend that will hopefully be legal soon is MDMA, what we call Molly or ecstasy. And that is, there's tremendous amount of research. Molly is incredibly effective at treating PTSD. It is the most effective treatment modality for PTSD by an order of magnitude. Iraq war vets who are treatment resistant, who've tried everything else, have success with MDMA. And rape victims, same thing. And my husband and I use that as kind of a marriage tune-up every year or two. We'll do.
How does that work?
Well, we don't do it with someone because we know how to do it, honestly. Right. But we get our drugs, we test them. You have to test any drug you're going to take in your system. You can get a test on Amazon, but the better place to get it is at dancesafe.org.
Dan, D-A-N?
Yeah, like dance.
Oh, Dance Safe. Dance Safe.
It started
as if I was going to a rave.
Yeah. So they would have a little table at raves. Let us test your drugs. And you peel off a little bit of the pill, and you dissolve it in water, and you test it for fentanyl. You test it to make sure it's actually MDMA, not methamphetamine, which it is more often than not, and anything else. So we test our drugs, and then we do this, and we spend 6 hours, anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. It was more in the beginning, but MDMA, you get used to it. Do you develop a tolerance, even if you're only doing it once every year or two, somehow?
Interesting. Yep.
And we talk about our marriage, and we talk about why we love each other and how we love each other. And what MDMA does is it operates on memory. So the best way to understand it is that it kind of disengages emotion from memory and allows you to experience them each independently. So you can think about a difficult thing, a thing that would be tied to an emotional response that would make you not want to think about that, like say an IED attack in Iraq or a horrible fight in your marriage. And you can think about it with a kind of neutrality and acceptance, because you don't have the pain getting in the way. And that pain is you experience a tremendous influx of serotonin, And you can thus, you have all these warm and loving feelings. So for us, it kind of brings us back to that first period of infatuation and,
that flush.
Yeah. And we talk about like difficulties in our marriage from a place of real acceptance and love. And it is, I really do credit that. When you have a lot of kids, marriage is hard. And I credit that with the success of our marriage to that in many ways.
Yeah, because it is a challenge if you're investing so much time in your kids, which us, lawnmower, helicopter parents, whatever you want to call us, do, that the two of you fight about that, or you disagree, or you just don't want to have anything to do with anybody because you've given so much energy into your kids. Right. I've read about this.
Did your cookies come out of the oven?
My cookies are out of the oven.
Show me.
Here's one now. They turn the most beautiful
They're the
color.
right shape too. They're like brown and
they're beautiful because they didn't
spread too much.
They didn't spread too much. They shouldn't. And they also, the secret to this cookie, because I long hated making oatmeal cookies, and then like a day later, like chewy oatmeal cookies, and you're like the next day you're like crunch. It's not chewy. So I added honey to them. I substituted honey for white sugar, and that adds a huge amount of moisture. It doesn't add any honey flavor, but it just makes them very warm. And the orange, it has orange zest in it. So it adds a really nice, I don't know. I find these almost, I could eat them all day long. They're just very comforting cookies.
Great.
Does MDMA help for couples that work together? You and your husband work together, and being creative is very hard.
Yeah. Like it ebbs and flows. Sometimes we work together phenomenally well. And sometimes it's a little, we have, look, when you can argue with nobody arguing with your spouse is like arguing with yourself. You are not, it's mean. It can be bad. Mm-hmm. So like having that in the work context is not good. But on the other hand, you have a kind of incredible shorthand that's really exciting. And like, for example, as crazy as this sounds, I think in the shower. And so we take a shower together and come up with all sorts. Harder now in the Bay Area where you have to have like a 2-minute shower. But like, that's that you can't do that with your work partner.
No. I mean, you could, but
yeah, I feel like maybe we could use that right now. I mean, the thing about Hollywood that's so stressful and challenging is that you never really know if you're going to go to series, if your project's going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like you work 3 years on a novel, you have a novel at the end of that. You work 3 years on a TV series, you could have nothing. And that is really, and we were at Showtime and we had a series order. And in the end, and we had a big penalty that they had to pay us. And in the end, they decided they'd rather pay us a penalty than make Cavalier and Clay.
Oh.
And it was really depressing and sad. And we'd worked so hard and we were just kind of like, come on, guys. But, Showtime changed and they wanted different things. And one of them was not a period story about the founding of superheroes set against the backdrop of the Holocaust. Go figure.
I mean, it has all the elements because it's such a good book.
Yeah. So hopefully Netflix will feel differently, but like, that's hard. That's hard. And you're both disappointed and so like one of you isn't in a place of stability and like equipoise while the other's freaking out. You're both kind of despairing. And so that can be hard. But on the other hand, like,
do you have similar ways of being in despair or different?
Oh,
like different reactions.
Michael's attitude is always, it's going to be okay. And my attitude is always, this is the worst thing that ever happened and it will never be okay. And we might as well just pack it in now because the world is a terrible place full of despair and tragedy.
Right.
So that's fun to be around, Who loves that?
I cut you off and I'm sorry to have done that, but I wanted to get a sense of despair, which is a very strange segue to just one other thing. I'd like to talk to you about 482 things, but I asked this for kind of selfish reasons, which is I was looking at articles that you'd written in what we call the Wayback Machine. And one of them was, I guess, for Harper's Bazaar, maybe, and it was about aging gracefully. And you were 44 at the time. Now you're 45. But you're 44 at the time. And I'm kidding. You're a little older than that, but you're the same age I am, basically. I'm a little bit younger, but not much. But you wrote it at the time and you're like, I'm into this aging gracefully idea. And I wondered if your thoughts about aging gracefully have changed.
I was my most beautiful, my most in shape, and probably my happiest at age 44, 45. So it was really easy to age gracefully. It was like, what? I am going to be graceful about it all. I mean, I look at pictures of myself then and I'm like, oh, wow, I was hot. But now that
you are beautiful, and for all the people who are not looking at you directly,
I gained 20 pounds during COVID, and I have like the usual female body image dysmorphia and body despair. And I, now I have wrinkles and now I have jowls, and I am not, I think part of it's COVID, like, fuck Zoom, man. There's like, I don't look at myself normally. I just go about my day. And this like staring at, like, all I can look, I'm like, is that a little sag?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think this bra really isn't doing anything for me.
Oh, also, I mean, it's awful. So I'm having a grace problem right now. Plus, I also feel like I've been working a long time for this specific professional thing, which is like, I wrote novels I'm really proud of. My novel, Love and Treasure, I think is among the best things probably the best thing I've ever written, especially the last section, which takes place in Prague before World War I, which if you read nothing of mine, read that last third of.
I recommend it. Yeah.
And so I've objectively, although it doesn't feel that way to me because I have such imposter syndrome, I've had success in that field. But what I really want to do is create and run my own TV show. And I've been working towards that for 10 years. I've sold a shit ton of pilots. I've developed a lot of shows. Unbelievable was nominated for Emmys and all, all that stuff, but I wasn't the showrunner, which is what I really want to do. And so I feel this sense of like the clock ticking. And the truth is, which I don't think I understood at 44, is that this world does not like women in their 50s and 60s. It really doesn't. And, call me a whiner, go to hell. Right now, especially, we have a moment where that kind of misogyny and ageism is considered perfectly
okay.
Okay, boomer. I'm not a boomer. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
And I even think like the whole Karen, there are a lot of really racist people that we call Karens, and they're disgusting. And there's one in Oakland, this woman who lost her mind over people barbecuing in a place where you barbecue. But that meme is a misogynist meme. And you see it over and over again. And it's like, oh, everybody on Twitter thinks it's just fine to attack a woman in her 50s, and you get kudos for it. And the same thing happens professionally. Women in their 50s are more expensive because they're more experienced, and they have, their leadership positions, and they are routinely fired in favor of women. Or, it's like 1-to-1. You don't get fired for a man. Like there's the female track, right? And then I find it really enraging. And here you're about to get all sorts of hate mail. Young women today are so disdainful of the women who came before them. And like, I'm looking in the wake of Roe v. Wade. It's about to be overturned.
Yeah.
And in the wake of the most recent Supreme Court decisions, you see all these younger women attacking us. And I'm like, fuck you. Do you know how hard we worked? Do you know how we marched and we worked and we donated and we were there with Planned Parenthood? What have you done besides fucking tweet? Like, that's all you're doing. And you're accusing us of losing you the right to choice, you ingrate piece of shit.
But that's even if they're aware of it. And that was one of the scariest things is I have the most wonderful students that I teach. I love them to bits, but we talk about the news all the time. And when this thing happened with the Supreme Court going, oh yeah, it did something with Roe v. Wade in Texas. I said, so what happened today in class? And they were like, I don't know what. I was like, have you guys heard of Roe versus Wade? And one person in the class had heard of it. One. And it was a class of 24 people, all of them 18, 19. And so I don't even think they know what they're missing as part of it.
I think that's part of it. But then like this conversation, 10,000 people will hear it and be like, oh, fuck you, boomer. And it's like, you know what? You are a misogynist and you are ageist and you are despicable. And like, you know, I'm not saying respect your elders. I'm saying have some consciousness of your bias. Look at your privilege because youth is a privilege. So there you go. That's my rant. And that's why I'm finding it harder to age right now. But I also think like the way to handle this is to do new things. Like I do think, so like right before we got on the Zoom, I'm learning French because we're going to go to Paris for a month. At some point, just a couple of weeks ago, I was like, remember we said we were going to go to Paris and live in Paris? And why are we fucking living in Paris? Mm-hmm. So I just went online and I found an apartment. I'm like, we're going to Paris on March 16th. We're doing like, and so I'm like, and then I haven't taken French since 9th grade. I'm going to take some French. So I do these like Zoom French classes. And I think that's the trick to aging gracefully is to constantly be challenging yourself to do new things and not stay in the same rut. Like embroidery, like sitting quietly in the evenings while your husband does his hobby, listening to an audiobook and embroidering. Very exciting. New thing.
I mean, every time I bake something, it's something new and different, right? So I that sort of thing. But also like everything you said totally and utterly resonates with me. It's something I've been thinking about way too much as I like try and embark upon, oh, I'm going to write this book and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. There's always that fear that someone's going to, no matter how much they like your idea, you're this, you're that. It's like, oh, but you're a 54-year-old middle-aged woman. We really don't want to have anything to do with you. And it's one of the last, it's one of those things that you can openly say.
Yep, totally. Yeah. I mean, shut up, old way. You hear that all the time. Sit down, old lady. Okay, boomer. But, I mean, I think about that all the time. I mean, like, I do really feel like more and more people don't want to hear what older people have to say. I had this amazing, I'm going to name drop, sorry, but I have to give her credit for this. So I was at a party and talking to Frances McDormand. Yes, I was. You too.
Did she have some insight into this? I would like to know what she thinks.
She doesn't do plastic surgery and she doesn't dye her hair. And she's very, she's embracing her age. And she said, listen, back in the day, you walked into a room and you looked at the people and you recognized who the wise ones were because they had white hair or gray hair and they had wrinkles on their face. And if you needed wisdom, you knew who to go to. And now we've like filled in our wrinkles and dye our hair. I dye my hair. Sorry, I do.
It's okay. So do I.
COVID when I look like a true nutcase.
I do highlights, everyone. I don't actually dye it. I don't really have that many grays. I feel very defensive. Yeah, go on.
But I heard that and I thought two things. One, I wish I lived in a world where anybody gave a shit about the wisdom of older women. But also, like, what a great way to live. And what confidence to have to be like, I know that I have this to offer. So I'm going to look like the person who can offer this. And she's kind of the way she moves through the world is the way I want to be. Also, she's really thin and looks great in a jumpsuit. So that's a goal.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Someone actually gave me a jumpsuit for Christmas a couple years back.
Many jumpsuits. I love them.
I can't do it. Mostly because I don't have any space between my grandmotherly breasts and my waist.
Me too. Me either. But what you have to do is you have to take them to the tailor and have the waist raised.
Oh, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
We're not just learning about cookies here, folks.
Yeah.
We're learning secrets with jumpsuits.
Psychedelics.
We got it all going on. I would love to talk to you forever and a day, especially about the Frances McDormand thing, because my first reaction when you said it was, when you explained her story, we're like, oh, but they look for the wise people in the room. I'm like, nobody's looking, no one's assuming I'm wise, right? Yeah. So
the wise. They're not. Everyone seems to think their wisdom comes from like some dipshit on TikTok.
I'm going to say somebody on TikTok.
By the way, I had a whole TikTok addiction. Loved it. I once scrolled for 3.5 hours, promptly like fucked up my thumbs. I had to get steroid shots to cure them. And then my son, as a result of this, I couldn't type. I was like, I couldn't pick up any, it turns out opposable thumbs are, critically important to get through the world. Mm-hmm. My son took my phone and put this thing on TikTok where I can't download it without a secret code that only he knows. So I'm off TikTok. But even so, like, to use TikTok as your primary source of like
news
in the world, that's stupid.
So I would like to start a TikTok cooking channel if anybody would like to help me edit that.
That'd be great. There's so many people who don't know how to cook on TikTok. I've done so many TikTok recipes and been like, that wasn't any good.
Do you have any memorable ones that are so bad? I watched them. Like
my son tried to make, there's this crispy potato thing that takes 2 days to make. And my son with like duck fat and all this stuff. And my son tried to make it for Thanksgiving and he did everything right. And he ended up with like a mass of disgusting crap in the fryer that we had to throw away. And that was our primary potato at Thanksgiving dinner. And thank God, Deb Kopakin showed up with a huge thing of delectable mashed potatoes, or we would have had our Thanksgiving
potatoes
destroyed.
On our next episode of You and Me Together talking about food, I'll teach you how to make proper English roast potatoes, which don't take that much time and are crispy and delicious.
What's the secret?
The secret is you boil them first and you put a pan, like a baking sheet that has a rim, obviously, into a hot oven with oil. And so then you take your parboiled, sort of smashed potatoes and put them into that hot oil.
Toss them around?
You don't have to, but you can toss them around because the oil's really hot and it's kind of scary at that point.
Like how much oil in the pan?
I'd say about quarter inch, half an inch.
Oh my God.
And then they cook and then you flip them over and they cook longer, but it takes a long time and patience.
What's the
develop?
You're at?
I usually do about 375.
Okay, I'm going to try these in the next couple of days. I'll be back. I'll get back to you. We have to do this again. This is my favorite podcast ever.
This is my favorite time ever. Thank you so much. Oh, you didn't bake yours yet, did you?
No.
I do want to know what you think because you do have very particular, in a good way, everyone, taste.
Yeah, I will get back to you. You should follow us on Twitter and I'll tweet
You'll definitely do it.
Response.
Have a wonderful time. And thank you so much for coming and being on the show today. And I'm going to go do something youthful. Do you think imposter syndrome has something to do with this idea that I don't think I'm wise?
Uh-huh.
Doctor?
I think we all suffer from it. I think we suffer from it terribly.
Okay, so the next episode will be imposter syndrome and really good roasted potatoes. Please join us. Please leave a review in the Apple Store to help keep this pod afloat. And please subscribe to my Substack at marissaroadkopf.substack.com to help keep me afloat. And please, oh please, if you would, leave a review, tell your friends, and keep your mask on. Thank you so much, and have a great week.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. No matter how you do game day, on the couch, in the crowd, or manning the snack table, Athletic Brewing fits right in. With a full lineup of non-alcoholic beer styles, you can enjoy bold flavors all game long. No hangovers, no buzz, no subbing out for water in the second half. Stock the fridge for tip-off with a variety of non-alcoholic craft styles available at your local grocery store or online at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, fit for all times.